Arsenal have a problem. For the first time all season, they have dropped points in back-to-back games. This time out against Brentford at the Emirates Stadium, Thomas Frank had a plan and it worked. But in a game full of controversy, where did it all go wrong? What changes does Mikel Arteta need to make? And were we robbed by VAR? As per, let's break it down and discuss the 5 things we learned from Arsenal 1, Brentford 1. Yo, what is going on guys? My name is Babs14, welcome back to your boys channel and we have a lot to discuss. It wasn't meant to be at the Emirates Stadium, but often you learn more from the games that you don't win. So as per, smash a like if you enjoy, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and let's get straight into this. Starting off with the VAR controversy. I don't want to blame the referees. I want to hold the Arsenal players accountable. The standards today were definitely lower. Some could even argue that Arsenal were lucky to even get a draw. But post-game there's been some breaking news. This is all about the Brentford equaliser. Tony scores it, but in terms of the assist, is the Brentford player offside? Well, as Mikel Arteta says, yes, I looked at it and yes, it's offside, but they will probably give us an explanation later in the week. Today we haven't got one. You have to apply certain principles in defending, but that depends on you following the rules. In terms of the free kick defending itself, it was poor, it was calamitous. That being said, in terms of the Brentford player, for me it's quite clear and obvious it was offside and the goal should not have stood. So where was VAR? Well, this is the breaking exclusive. James Sharp of the Daily Mail says VAR's Lee Mason forgot to draw the offside lines on Ivan Toney's equaliser in a mistake that could have a huge impact on Arsenal's title hopes. Christian Norgard was offside, and had the lines been drawn, the goal would have been disallowed. Have a look for yourselves one more time, this time with the line. Clear and obvious as day, Christian Norgard is offside. Yet for whatever reason, a professional referee for years and years somehow forgot to draw the lines. This is utterly a disgrace. It is simply unforgivable. Yes, Arsenal were poor today, but ultimately we scored a clear goal. Brentford did not take their chances, and with the score at 1-0, Brentford scored an offside goal. And we're not talking opinions here, we're talking facts. In an age where we have so many angles, every goal is checked forensically, but on this occasion, for whatever reason, Mr. Lee Mason forgot. This guy has a history of awful refereeing. In fact, back in 2022, he was left out of a weekend's Premier League games after a massive error on VAR duty. A history of making errors and a history of errors including Arsenal. Go back to Gabriel Martinelli's disallowed goal at Old Trafford this season, later I've confirmed to be incorrectly ruled out. And have a guess who was in charge of VAR on that day? Lee Mason. I'm not trying to paint an agenda here. I don't believe referees are all against Arsenal. This is more of an issue around the Premier League. The referee standards are simply a joke. On the same day you had a clear and obvious handball for Chelsea denied. You also had a clear and obvious offside forgotten by the referee. The Premier League is known as the best league in the world, but quite clearly has the worst referees. And something needs to change here. Referees need to be held accountable. Whenever these guys make a mistake, a week later it's brushed under the carpet. And on this specific occasion, Lee Mason and VAR have cost Arsenal. They've given a clear and obvious offside goal, potentially robbed Arsenal of 3 points, and maybe, just maybe, played a massive part in the title race with an incorrect decision. What are you guys thinking? What do you believe needs to happen now? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Moving on to the second thing, Arteta has a problem. Forget the VAR controversy, in this game Arsenal weren't that good. Despite having so much of the ball, 23 shots, 70% possession, 72 final third entries, and a whopping 75% of the field tilt, Arsenal had a lot of the ball in the Brentford final third, but it was far from effective. And as you guys can see, in terms of XG, Arsenal were a 1.65, Brentford 2.35. Brentford were more decisive, and Thomas Frank's plan was very clear. And after the game, he made a point of the importance of doubling up on Arsenal's wingers as being key to playing against Arsenal. For the second game in a row, Arsenal struggled to break down a deep block. And Brentford are a good team. They have beaten Man City, they have beaten Liverpool, they've embarrassed Man United, but I still believe Arsenal could have been far more decisive. This graphic sums it all up. Arsenal's passes in zone 14 and the half spaces. A lot of passes around the box, but very few inside it. Teams are figuring out how Arsenal are playing. In our last 3 games, City, Everton and Brentford, they have all man-marked our wide forwards. And this is where Mikel Arteta needs to find a different solution. Because even in this game, our goals came from the wide forwards. Saka with the assist, Trossard with the goal. But we need to talk about the left-hand side. Zinchenko, Xhaka, Martinelli. There was a lack of cohesion there. And on Gabriel Martinelli, it seems that game after game without Gabriel Jesus and without the combination play, he looks a bit lost. And when Arteta was asked on whether there has been a drop-off on Martinelli's performances, he says, I think every player has got their moments. We took off Gabby for Leo because when Leo's in those spaces, he is so good. He is so composed, he's constantly faking movements and playing forwards. Leandro Trossard once again was impressive, this time scoring his first ever Arsenal goal. But there was more to it. 2 out of 3 dribbles, and every single pass seemed incisive. When playing up against a deep block, Leandro Trossard is very useful. Comment down below if you believe Trossard should start. But we also have to talk about Alexander Zinchenko. Normally so reliable on the ball, but in this game he was off his standards, and he was holding onto the ball for way too long. And that meant that every time Arsenal got the ball into the final third, Zinchenko was unable to have any sort of impact. This may have been a game for Kieran Tierney, a different type of fullback to overload the left hand side, who in the final third offers a better overlap. There's no denying Zinchenko is a far better inverted fullback, but in certain games when it's not working, I believe Mikel Arteta needs to be more ruthless. And then you also have Granit Xhaka, who's been Mr. Reliable for Arsenal in so many games this season, but in the last 2 games up against a deep block, you can see his deficiencies. He is not a progressive ball carrier, and he's not suited to playing in tight spaces. You then look at Fabio Vieira, whose game is far more suited to playing up against low blocks, and you ask yourself the question, why is Mikel Arteta not starting his summer signing? Does he still have physical concerns? On the right hand side, Arsenal have the combinations. Saka and Odegaard can cause any team issues, but on the left hand side it's far from functional, so comment down below, what changes do you believe Mikel Arteta needs to make? Moving on to the third thing, the missing links. Brentford are a very well organised team, they won't give you any space, and in this game there's 2 players that I believe Arsenal really missed, and here they were before the game, Gabriel Jesus and Emil Smith-Rowe. Both players out injured, and both players that thrive on playing up against deep blocks. In the case of Eddie Nketiah, he really struggled today, winning only 1 ground duel all game. You can clearly see he was giving a different instruction. He was dropping off a lot deeper, and he was trying to play like a false 9 like a Gabriel Jesus. But Eddie's a different type of striker. He's most dangerous inside the box. He doesn't have the same level of connection with Gabriel Martinelli. And Gabriel Jesus is more than just a false 9. He's able to provide a moment of magic. His dribbling can be sensational, and that level of profile is just so unique that as great as Nketiah has been, in a game like this, a Gabriel Jesus profile could have been the game changer. In games like this when Arsenal are really struggling, you could have played both together, gone to the 3-5-2 and cast your eyes back to the game against Fulham where Arsenal was struggling and that formation worked a treat. And Mikel Arteta has confirmed that Jesus is getting closer and his return's going to be gargantuan. But then you have Emil Smith-Rowe, who this time last year was flying, Arsenal's top goal scorer in the Premier League, and scored a smashing goal against Brentford at the Emirates Stadium. And that goal was the epitome of what Arsenal lacked today, a ball carrier from central midfield. There's no denying that Xhaka has been fantastic this season, but in a game like this, the ball carrying of Emil Smith-Rowe and the ball striking may also have been a game changer. Moving on to the fourth thing, and Saliba struggles. Ivan Toney is a physical monster. We've seen it in the past in the infamous game at the start of last season. He caused Ben White so many issues. But cast your eyes back to October, where Arsenal won at Brentford 3-0, and Saliba was flawless. He scored the first Arsenal goal, and I believe was given the man of the match. But in this game, he was taught a lesson, as he won 0 out of 10 aerial duels. Compare that to Gabriel, who won 3 out of 6. It's clear to see that Toney was targeting Saliba. And Saliba's a 6'4" defender, he can hold his own, but you could definitely see his inexperience. He was trying to contest duels that he was never going to win. Toney was simply more clever, and I don't even think Saliba was that poor. But what you could see straight away is a young defender there being sometimes naive. It's something that he's definitely going to learn with more and more experience. And he is one of the only Arsenal players that has started every single game this season. I do also believe he looks a little bit fatigued. But I do want to praise Gabriel Magalhaes. He's a player that I was worried about, especially when he wasn't called up to the Brazil squad for the World Cup. Gabriel has definitely learned, he's definitely matured, and over the past few weeks he's been flawless. Arsenal's home defence is definitely a concern, only keeping 2 clean sheets out of 10 games at home this season. In contrast, Arsenal have kept 7 out of 11 clean sheets away from home. If Arsenal are going to win the league, the sloppy goals at home needs to stop. Moving on to the fifth thing, a test of character. Arsenal's form recently has been confusing. To get 10 points out of Brighton, Newcastle, Spurs and United, but only 1 point out of 6 against Everton and Brentford, it just goes to show that in the Premier League anything is possible, and there are no guaranteed wins. And Brentford have been very good recently. They haven't lost a single league game since October. And after the game, Thomas Frank says, Arsenal are still the favourites to win the title, and I think they will. The title race is definitely getting interesting, and here's how it looks. Arsenal remain top, and have actually extended their lead to 6 points clear with the same amount of games played. But in terms of City, they now have a massive game against ex-Arsenal manager Unai Emery, as Aston Villa travel to the Etihad. And it's a game that I do expect for them to win. I'm hoping that Unai Emery can do us a favour, give us a good evening, but the title race is still all in Arsenal's hands. And here's our next 6 games. It's Man City at home, Aston Villa away, Leicester City away, Bournemouth at home, a Europa League last 16 first leg, and then Fulham away. Those away games are going to be far from easy, but as things stands, the focus is all on Wednesday. Arsenal versus Manchester City, Emirates Stadium under the lights. A game that was meant to be played in October, but of course was rescheduled. And it's a game that could be season defining, and it is going to be gargantuan. If City were to beat Villa, they'd close the gap to 3 points, meaning if they were to beat Arsenal at the Emirates, they would go above us on goal difference. We would still have a game in hand, but at the same time it goes to show, a lead in a title race can go like that. And now there's a massive question asked of this Arsenal team. When you're fighting for a title, there's always going to be a bump in the road. It's not going to be clear sailing, but if you're going to be a champion, you need to be able to bounce back. Against City, it's going to be difficult. It's all over to these Arsenal players. They got the fans believing, but hope's a very dangerous thing, especially as an Arsenal fan. The going is about to get tough. Can this Arsenal team find a way and get their title charge back on track? Comment down below what you guys made of this game, and where do you believe this leaves Arsenal in a title race? That is the video there and there, so hopefully you guys have enjoyed. If you have, go down there, smash a like, and also subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you want to follow your boy on all of his social medias, then the links are down below in the description. But that was the 5 things we learned from Arsenal 1, Brentford 1. It's far from the end of the world, but a reaction is certainly needed. Can we bounce back against City on Wednesday? We're going to find out, so stay tuned, take care, and no debates.